Hey guys, I'm hanging out in the youth lounge today. It's Tuesday. We're on YouTube. It's YouTube Tuesday. Hey, so I shared this last week in our YouTube Tuesday video where I just explained that on Thursdays right now, my wife and I are doing this thing called a Sabbath, where we just kind of do nothing all day. But really, it's not that we're doing nothing, it's that we're using that day to do more time with God than honestly collectively through the rest of the week we ever do. So on Thursdays from 6 p.m. to Friday at 6 p.m., we are reading our Bible, we're praying, we're meditating, we're spending time with God, just on like a really deep, rich level. And during those times, I've been reading through the book of Exodus. And I have to tell you, there's so much in Exodus that looks like what we're going through today. Like the Hebrew people are wandering out in the desert, and sometimes that might be how we feel right now, that like we don't really know what's going on and we don't really know what's next. So we're just kind of stuck in this time of wandering. So it's been really encouraging for me to read through Exodus, and I've learned two really big things. The first one is that it could be worse, right? Like we could be wandering in the desert. So it could be worse. And the second one is that I'm being reminded that even in like the hardest times, or even in the times when we just don't know what's next, God is still with us in those times. And God tends to direct his people through times of uncertainty. It's just been really encouraging to read through that. But one of the things that I've noticed in Exodus is obviously one of the big event moments in Exodus is the Ten Commandments. When Moses comes down the mountain and he has these 10 commandments for the people. And it starts with, you should have no other gods before me. And really, the rest of Exodus is just trying to get the people to understand that simple concept, is that they should worship God first and nothing else or nobody else. And we even see Jesus echo this in the New Testament when somebody asks him, hey, what's the greatest commandment? He says, the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, to put no other gods before him. Well, we're going through this time right now where I think it'd be really easy for us to put some gods before God. Not like actual gods, like we're not worshiping other gods or other religions or anything like that. But there are some things that have probably gotten in the way of your time with God. And what we typically say is whatever you spend the most time doing is what you're worshiping. Or whatever you spend more time doing than time with God is what you're worshiping. And now there's some easy answers to that right now, right? Like, well, it could be media. Like we're looking at what the media has for us, what direction our president has for us, what direction the leaders of the state of Florida might have for us. So we're looking to them for answers rather than God. Or it might be our friends and what our friends are saying. It might be what's happening on social media. Maybe something that you're spending a lot more time doing now than you used to is video games, or just anything of that nature. Something that we're spending a lot more time looking at for answers rather than God. So there's some easy answers to that question. And then there's some ones that we probably haven't thought about. And I want to share those with you guys today. So check this out. We're going to go over to the whiteboard. So we're going to call this the ABCD of Exodus. These are the gods that maybe we have found ourselves worshiping during this time. It's the ABCD of E. The first one is this: apathy. Maybe you found yourself in this boat where you are just okay with doing nothing. Like, this isn't just boredom, though. This is like, I'm doing nothing and I don't really care that I'm doing nothing. Like, I've just accepted this new reality where I just kind of sit at home. I don't really do anything. But here's the problem with apathy, is if you're doing nothing, then you're not doing anything wrong, but you're also not doing anything good or anything right either. And there's this really scary reality about the enemy or Satan is that he doesn't have to kill you in order to win. He just has to get you out of the battle. So if you're kind of sitting at home doing nothing, Satan wins in that scenario. And apathy or boredom can lead to a lot of different things, because not only am I doing nothing and I don't care, then that means I don't really care if I do something that's like a little bit borderline or a little bit like kind of wrong, and I know I shouldn't do it, but like, I mean, who cares, right? Like, I'm just bored. Like, I've got this perfect excuse. I'm bored. I'm not doing anything. So like, what else am I supposed to do? So maybe I'll do a little bit of this and a little bit of that I know I shouldn't be doing during this time. So if you find yourself in this category of apathy, I want to encourage you, just do something. Get outside, go for a walk, call a friend, do something today to work on your relationship with God or with other people. The B stands for this. So we've got apathy, and then we've got busyness, right? So this is the complete opposite. This is the person that's like, well, I just need to move from task to task so that I don't get bored, so I don't get apathetic. I need to I'm getting all my schoolwork on Monday, so I'm going to get as much of it done as I can so that I can play a ton of video games in the afternoon, or so that I can get all of my chores done in the afternoon, or so I can spend the rest of the day on FaceTime with my friends, or reading a book, or which isn't like, some of these things aren't even like bad things, but it's just like things to keep us busy, and busyness can get us distracted from God as well. So I want to encourage you, again, the enemy doesn't have to kill you to win. The enemy might just need to distract you with something else. So I want to encourage you, if you found yourself worshiping the God of busyness, to slow down a little bit. Not like stop, right? Because we don't want to find ourselves in this category where we're apathetic, but to just make room for time with God. Slow down a little bit, read scripture, pray, meditate, whatever you need to do to reconnect with God. All of these things, all the tasks will still be there when you get back. The world will still continue without you. Just remove some of the distractions, turn off the white noise in your life, get a little bit less busy, and spend time with God. The C is a really important one that we have to pay attention to during this time. It's the God of comparison. Man, this is so dangerous right now. We are living in a world where everything's being run on social media, right? And it would be really easy to look at our friends and go, well, they're not following the social distancing rules, so why do I need to follow those rules as well? Or you may look on the news and find out that there are some other countries that are opening again, and you're like, man, well, why can't we do that? But here's what happens is comparison tends to lead to complaining. And complaining can be really bad for your heart. It can kind of deteriorate some of your emotions and make you feel hostile towards the people that you are comparing yourself to. And there's some really important words in the book of Philippians. And I think that the Apostle Paul just kind of knew what we were up against when it came to complaining. And he says this in verse 14 of chapter 2 in Philippians. He says, do everything without grumbling, and some translations say complaining or arguing. And I think he put both of those words in there because he knew that complaining tends to lead to arguing. And if you found yourself comparing yourself to other people on social media, or to what you're seeing other countries doing right now, I would imagine that you've probably felt frustrated. And what that might lead to, though, is when things do start to open up again, it could lead to arguments with your friends, or you may have some emotions that you stored up during this time that you take out on them when things go back to normal, and you may hurt your friendships down the road. So don't fall into this trap. Don't start comparing yourself to other people. not even just like based off of what's happening right now, but it'd be really easy also like looking at social media to be like, well, this guy's life is perfect and this person's life is perfect. And you may not even realize that you're looking at like videos from like a long time ago, or you may be looking at videos that don't even depict like reality, right? Like was one really great thing that they got to do that maybe in a long list of really great things that they've got to do, but the rest of their life might not be nearly as good as that. So don't find yourself in here, because it's gonna hurt your heart. It's gonna lead to arguing down the road. It's gonna lead to maybe you like harboring some bad emotions towards other people for when things do go back to normal. And the last one is this. This one's especially dangerous. It is the God of detachment. The God of detachment. Man, this one would be so easy to fall into right now, especially if you would call yourself an introvert during this time, right? Like this is the God of people who are just kind of like, you know what, I kind of like this. I kind of like not having to talk to people. I kind of like just being in my room all day. The God of detachment would destroy your relationships with your friends, or maybe not destroy the relationships with your friends, but it would really sever your ties with your friends. It would say, you know, it's okay to just have you time right now. And to some extent that's true. It's good to have time to yourself, but if you have found yourself completely detached from relationships, that you're not connected to people right now, I would argue that you're in a really dangerous place, because the next part of the greatest commandment that Jesus gave us is to love your neighbor as yourself. So to have no other gods before him, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and then to love other people in the same way that you love yourself. So if you have made yourself in subjects to the God of detachment, then you are probably not loving others the same way that you love yourself. And that can lead to some really scary things. The scariest thing that can lead to is loneliness, right? And loneliness is meaningless, as the writer of Ecclesiastes would tell us. Not a lot of good can come from loneliness. So I would encourage you, if you have found yourself in this boat, maybe you're not even just detached from people, but this can lead to a detachment from God as well. Maybe you're just kind of at home alone without your friends and without God in your life either. And I would encourage you and challenge you to make a phone call or a FaceTime call to a friend today. Maybe tonight we're going to do a Instagram live with our high schoolers and follow it up with a Zoom call. And maybe you need to jump in on there as well and just, say hi to some other people and be encouraged by your friends again. You might be surprised at how it makes you feel. Because detachment leads to loneliness, and loneliness is not good. So I would challenge you to reach out to some people in your life, and reach out to God as well if you found that you've detached yourself from Him too. Again, the enemy doesn't have to kill us to win. The enemy just has to get us to remove ourselves from the fight, to compare ourselves to our friends or our brothers in Christ and argue with them and fight amongst each other. The enemy just has to get us to focus on something else, to be busy with other things instead of our relationship with God. And if the enemy wants to win, he just needs to get you to stop caring, to be so bored that it just doesn't matter anymore. So my prayer for you guys is that you would run from these gods and back to the God who saved you, who has called you according to His purpose. And it starts by loving Him and loving the people around you. That's my prayer for all of you guys right now as we continue on through whatever's next, right? As we continue to wander through this wilderness. My prayer is that you would remove these idols from your life and replace them with God. Spend more time with Him, whatever that looks like. I love you. We'll catch you next time on YouTube Tuesday.